Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to another Humpday Q&A.
Hello,
We
hello.
are we are here joined by several people, which we'll be introducing shortly. Um, yes, I think we'll go through all who we are. I am sadly very underprepared for today. I've jumped in very last minute. Let's do the usual introductions, and we'll see where we get to.
Sure.
So let's see.
There's some slide somewhere. There we go.
So
Yeah.
my name's Simon Lightfoot. I'm a Flutter community leader, and I'm CTO at Dev Angels London. And you can follow me at Dev Angels London on Twitter. Scott can't be with us today. He's not feeling very well, but we will give him our blessings. Randall, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I am a Dart Flutter GDE Google Developer Expert, which means that Google has vetted me for being slightly smarter than the average crowd for for Flutter and Dart. I'm also typically on this show. I'm typically just behind the scenes, where I spend time looking for your questions in the chat room, the live chat room, and flagging them for the panel. But since Scott's out, I figured I would step in at the beginning of the show here, and I may also rejoin at the end of the show. So here I am.
And we appreciate it very much. So, do you want to take us through the do's and don'ts?
I could do that. So first, be nice. This is just general respect. Don't post anything that's adult content. Don't advertise or promote anything. This is typically for the chat room because obviously you can't do this after the show. You can't just yell it at your screen. It doesn't work that way. Don't spam. Don't post the same thing again and again, especially a question. If I see the question, I'll flag it. If I see the question again, 15 seconds later, I'm going to start saying, wait a second, you're trying to get undue attention and essentially start ignoring you. Also, don't harass anybody. Not tolerated here, not tolerated with any Google related events, and all that. So, yeah, there we go.
We share our ban lists, so do it hit
Yep.
be bad here, and you are blocked elsewhere. Let's move on to some happy fun stuff. So
Yeah.
we have some guests with us today from our good old friends from outside. So I'll introduce a couple of people to the screen. First of all, it's Colin and Kevin. Hey, Colin and Kevin. You're muted, by the way. Just FYI. it's
Traditional for a
the
show.
modern phrase, right? Like you're muted. And
Yes.
there you go.
Are we muted now?
Yeah, you're good now. You're good now.
Hey, Randall.
Thanks for joining us. Do you
We're
want to
in the
introduce
same
yourselves?
place. This is bizarre. Okay.
We're physically near each other. It's crazy.
So,
You're on different places, right? So, go on. Do you want to introduce who you are and what
sure.
position you hold at the @sign company or @foundation?
That's fine, yeah. Kevin and I are both founders. I'm allegedly the CTO, although not too sure what that means. What that really means is I find lots of bugs and hassle people until you get them fixed. That's basically all I do. Kevin?
Yeah, Colin, without a doubt, has a bug finding superpower. 30-year-old code bugs.
He's got one of those touches. He just touches something and bugs come out.
Bugs start popping out. It's amazing. So I'm Kevin, one of the other co-founders, and I'm screw titles. I'm the Chief Kevin Officer.
Yeah, I'm the Chief Officer, and you'll meet the Chief Tinashe Officer very, very quickly.
Yep.
And as I say, do you want to introduce our other two guests? Should we bring them on? Tinashe.
Hey, how's it going? So I'm Tinashe. As Colin said, I guess I'm the Chief Tinashe Officer. And what that means is I deal with all of our customer experience stuff, and I work closely with the developers doing QA.
And lastly, we've got another guest here from outside. Let's just bring him on board. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Sachin Singh, engineer at Geeky Ants, and we are collaborating with the ad company to build some cool apps based on atPlatform.
Awesome.
Randall, don't get mad at me, but Geeky Ants is awesome. I am shamelessly promoting Geeky Ants.
Do it. I mean, Geeky Ants have actually been around since the early days. Since the early days, they've been doing Flutter since the very beginning. Have a very substantial what's the word? Following, I guess, in India specifically, I think. So, we brought you on board just to obviously just for the guests, for the viewers here, what you guys would like to share with everyone today.
Sure. So we have an app that we've developed called Atmosphere Pro, and we just kind of wanted to introduce that to the viewers, talk a little bit about it, explain how it works, show them how it works, do a little code walkthrough, and take some questions, pretty much.
Yeah, no, definitely. So we will open the floor up to general Q&A after we do a little presentation here, as it were, a little chat. And if you have any questions, anyone viewing, make sure you have put Q in front of them, and then Randall can dig them out of the chat, and we can get your questions answered. That said, yes, tell us about this app. Come on, I want to hear more about it. What's so special about this app?
Everything. Okay. So pretty much, I mean, we do have some slides as well that Sachin is going to share, but just as a quick overview, Atmosphere Pro is an app that's been built on the atPlatform, and the whole idea is that we wanted to provide a way for people to very simply and securely transfer files from any device to any other device, in a nutshell. And it's open source, so we thought, let's talk about it here and invite people to play around with it, modify it, repurpose it, contribute to the project, just look at it, whatever they want to do. Yeah.
How do you want to run this, Sasson? Do you want to start your slides, and then and who wants to stay on screen and who wants to come off? Like, we'll just take the place by ear because I'm very unprepared. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. So Sachin's gonna share his screen because he's
Yeah, Simon, I'm sharing my screen.
And we can all just hang out on screen.
Sure.
It's all good. Cool. All right. So I guess I'll get started and just start talking about this. We could probably skip the first two slides since we've already done our intros. But yeah, so like I said, we're just going to talk about what Atmosphere Pro is, do a little feature comparison, go into a little bit about the platform, the way that Atmosphere Pro works, and then Sachin will take us into Atmosphere Pro in action, and then we'll talk about the repo and take questions. Okay, so like I said, Atmosphere Pro is a truly end-to-end encrypted file transfer app. And you're probably wondering what we mean by truly end-to-end encrypted. Pretty much it means that we, and by we I mean everybody at the app company, the people working in infrastructure, developers, everybody, we cannot access the encryption keys that are used for transferring these files. So we have zero visibility on what is being transferred. And this is because the keys are cut on the individual devices, and therefore anything that is transferred is encrypted specifically for the intended recipient. And we'll talk a little bit more about this shortly, but that's kind of the basic gist of what we mean when we say that it's truly end-to-end encrypted. And why we're developing this app. So at the app company, like I said, we've created a platform called the atPlatform very creatively. And this allows people to build fully encrypted Flutter apps with ease. And as with any new technology, you kind of need to provide samples and examples for people to be able to understand how it works and what they can use it for. So we've been working on this open source file transfer app to serve as a demo app that's been built on the platform. And the whole idea is that developers can download the app, try it on their devices, dive into the code, play around with it, and contribute to the project, all while learning how the platform works. And then in addition to that, like we could have just made like a demo app that's just a bunch of different methods being called, but with little utility to the world. So we kind of felt that we may as well hit two birds with one stone by providing the demo as an actual file transfer app that's free, that's private, it's secure, it's easy to use. There's no file compression. And we did this knowing that there would be people out there who would actually find utility out of the app, like privacy conscious individuals, people who are in vulnerable situations who need to transfer stuff, but don't want to get in trouble for doing so, and people like creatives who want to be able to transfer files without the quality being compromised because of compression. And then here we just have like a teeny tiny comparison of Atmosphere Pro versus other things that are currently out there. I won't spend too much time on this, but this is just at a quick glance, you can kind of see some of the key differentiators that Atmosphere Pro has, including the ability to own your own keys, which is quite big. And the fact that you don't need to provide like a phone number or an email address or any personal contact information in order for somebody to actually transfer something to you. And some of you might be wondering how that's possible. Well, that's because apps that are built on the atPlatform utilize what we call @signs. Sure, by now you can tell we love @symbols. We put them in everything. And these are like unique identifiers, kind of like usernames, but without passwords. Kevin and Colin will talk a little bit more about this in a bit. But yeah, that's pretty much what Atmosphere Pro looks like in comparison to some of the other stuff that's currently out there. And then some of you might be thinking, well, this seems pretty similar to something like AirDrop, right? Well, not really, because AirDrop is limited to like Apple devices, and you have to be close to the person that you're transferring the file to in order to use AirDrop. Whereas with Atmosphere Pro, you can send anything from pretty much any device anywhere. And when we say any device, we mean both desktop, mobile devices, pretty much anything running on Mac OS, Windows, iOS, and Android. And if you want to try the app on one of your own devices, on the left here, we have a QR code that will take you to the app's landing page, which is atmospherepro.app. And from there, you can find links to download the app from the various stores and give it a try. And I think I'll hand it over to Colin and Kevin to talk a bit about the platform and how the app actually works and why it's different to what's currently out there.
We're always moving.
I'll do this bit. Hey everyone. So as Tinashe said, everybody in the @sign community has an @sign. An @sign just looks like a string of characters. My @sign is @Colin. Kevin's is actually @Kevin. But you can actually get, you can buy @signs, you can get free ones in the app. If you download the app, it will, if you haven't got an @sign, you can get a free @sign there and then. But an @sign is just an identifier on the internet that's unique to you. And behind each one of those @signs is a microservice. And that microservice acts as your point of presence on the internet. And you can, with that sort of bit of information, what's your @sign, you can communicate peer-to-peer with somebody else who's got an @sign. So you could transfer information, transfer a file, as Atmosphere Pro does, ask a question. Everything is open source. Everything you see in a GitHub repo is exactly what's running in production. There's no smoke, no mirrors. The namespace is the only thing that's centralized. Everything else is distributed. These microservices you can run yourself, or you can just have a default one that will run for you. So that's sort of a 100,000-foot view of the platform. The unique thing about it, more than anything else, is that you can give different answers to the same question depending on who's asking. And what I mean by that is, if @Sarah, my wife, asks @Colin where my location is, I can give her one answer. And if @Kevin asks what's your location, I can actually give Kevin a different answer. So it's a very human thing rather than a computer thing, that you can get different answers based on who's asking. Lots of things come out of that, and as a developer, it's sort of interesting to sort of think about that use case. The other thing is, as Tinashe mentioned, all the keys, the cryptographic keys, are cut on people's devices, so we never get to see the keys, which means we can never get to see the data. And as a developer, that's sort of interesting as well, because you actually can develop applications and not run the risk of being able to access people's confidential data. So it's an ongoing problem. If you think of a sort of traditional app and you've got a database in the back end, whoever's got administrative access on the app, on the database, can see everything. If you've ever written a Flutter app with a Firebase backend or whatever, you log into Firebase, you can actually see all that information. That's potentially good and potentially very, very bad. We would prefer that people keep their own data, and if they want to share it with you, they have the explicit choice to do that. So that's about as much as I can say about that platform, unless I've missed anything fundamental, Kevin.
The only other thing is if you're building an app with a typical 3-tier architecture and backend, those things cost money, take time to build. So this is a model where instead of one centralized database for an app, you have thousands, millions of little tiny databases all talking to each other that live on the edge. So it's basically a fully distributed edge database with lots of little shards or tables or however you want to describe it. But it's a very unique architecture, if you will.
I'd like to mention to the viewers that you don't have to. That it's built for you. That's the key point here, right? It's built for you. You can think of it from that perspective, and it sounds complicated, but it's there. It's working, right?
Yeah, from a application, and Satya will take us through this. As an application developer, you don't even have to know that any of this stuff exists. You just literally have to put and get keys, or you have to send notifications. The choice is yours. And obviously there is infrastructure, but for the most part, you don't even have to worry about it. It'll just put and get keys to what looks like a local database, and yet it's a global, highly distributed database. So you can do this one. How it works.
Okay, so all right. So one of the key things that this app demonstrates. I mean, we do these sample apps to kind of prove particular points, and the one of them on this one is you've got large files, arbitrarily large files that need to be encrypted. RSA is not a good answer. So how do you manage a shared key infrastructure without actually having to have the a priori shared keys? And so what it does is two things. So one is we use a thing called file bin to store the file, and that's just a cloud service, and it's obfuscated. So you can store a file with file bin on the web and then access it with a URL. It's temporal storage, so it lasts, in our case, 7 days.
7 days, yeah.
So the data will be there for 7 days and then evaporate. But what we do is actually store it with encrypted form. So the file is actually encrypted with AES shared key encryption. So you have to have, so both the sender and the recipient have to have the shared key. So that shared key is generated when you share the file. And so we actually use RSA to encrypt the shared key and send it to the recipient, saying, and only the recipient is able to use their private key to get access to the shared key in order to get access to the file in this hidden location on the internet in plain sight, but encrypted. Yeah, so all that.
So the provider, in which case us, we have not got the keys. Only the person you want to send the file to has got the keys. Traditionally, on the previous diagram we were showing, traditionally you send a file to, I don't know, pick your favorite location, and they tell you that they look after it, but they actually can see the file because it's not your keys it's encrypted with. With Amazon Pro, you cut the keys, you're only sharing the keys with the people you want to share the keys with. So they're the only people that can actually see the file.
Yeah, so the point we're trying to make is that you can have data in plain sight that anybody can get a hold of, and say, here's my, I've got this encrypted file, and guess what? I can't do anything with it because it's encrypted. So in a the modern world of privacy, cryptography is your access control. So you provide access control by making sure that only the intended recipient is the only person in the universe that's able to access the data. So that's a different way of thinking about data. But so basically, you can have any kind of data. It doesn't really matter. It could be JSON data. It could be a document, a file. It could be a stream of data that are all cryptographically protected. And the important thing is who controls the keys. So if the sender and the recipient control their own respective keys and nobody else, then you have a very robust form of encryption, security, and access control all rolled into one, and even authentication, as it turns out, as well. So
the question you got to ask yourself is, do you own the keys? Has somebody given you the keys, in which case they obviously have a copy, or did you cut the keys yourself? And if you haven't got the keys, then you probably don't actually own whatever it is. We've talked enough.
I was going to say, it is kind of, just briefly on this point, right, before we just jump into it. Sorry to get in. I was going to say, it's one of those interesting points, though, that I saw someone complaining about, like Twitter being able to see their, like, DMs or something. I'm like, yes, because it's not end-to-end encrypted. People kind of think DM or whatever like that is private. No, it's private between you and your third party on their service, and the entire service can see that content because they have to manage it, right? But true end-to-end means it's encrypted from you to your destination, whoever it is that you're speaking to. And it's still rare in the industry, right? Like it needs to become more popular.
And the best description we can come up with that is to delineate by calling it truly end-to-end encrypted. And so there are end-to-end encryption schemes where the service holds the keys, or at least has the ability to get a hold of the keys. And get a hold of the data.
As I'm sure the developers that are watching know that you access your server with HTTPS that is encrypted, and if the two parties access HTTPS, it could be considered end-to-end encrypted because everything is encrypted, but the server sees it in plain text, and that's the difference. Yeah. So anyone running that service in terms of developer-owned service can see that content.
Yep.
Yeah, we saw that. We had an intern program a couple of years ago, and one of the interns actually developed a really cool app, but didn't develop it on the atPlatform. He said, like, look at this, and it was cool. Nothing wrong with it. It was good. It was using, I think, Firebase in the back end. And we said, yeah, but there's only one problem. And he said, what's the problem? I'm like, well, log us into Firebase. There's all the data. He goes, oh, this is bad. I don't want to see this data. And all of a sudden, it went click, and he migrated the code over to the platform. But I think all too often, because it's hidden, it's back end stuff, we want to forget about it. But the fact is, you're running risk by actually being able to access this data. You've got to, there's a duty of care on that data. And there's more and more regulation to force people to have that duty of care on that data.
All right, maybe not.
The last thing, Simon, is so Tanashi mentioned at the beginning. So we've done everything in Flutter from the beginning, and one of the wonderful things about Flutter is that it can run on everything. So you sort of get. Our goal for this from a user experience standpoint is to say it's like AirDrop, but from anything to anything. No, really, it works great. We're not quite there yet. It's not as easy to do as I'd like it to be, but we're getting there. And I'm hoping to twist Colin's arm into doing a command line version of Atmosphere Pro too.
Oh yeah, we got to do that. Yeah, we're working on it. We need Sachin to bring us down to ground and see code. Everybody wants to see code, not us.
All right, so we'll do a demo and then we'll do a code walkthrough.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Okay, I have some pre-selected things here, so I'll just remove them. So here I'm running it from the testified version. This is running on this is the desktop version running on macOS, and this is running on iOS. So as you can see, I am logged in. I am onboarded with two different @signs here at local 2010 and here at Dang36 Dragonfly. So I will just try to share files between these two @signs. So first we will select the receiver, and then some files. All right, let's go with two files. So during this process, the file was encrypted and uploaded, and after that, it was shared with the receiver, this local 2010. So I have received a notification here, but before showing the details there, uh, we save the data in sent history, thus shared files, and as you can see, the status is also delivered here. And if you would like to see the file details and if you would like to download it, we can do it by here. And so this is also a two-step process. Here we are downloading the files one by one, and then after downloading we will be decrypting the files. So after decrypting, it will be available in our local, and here it's the status has been marked as downloaded as well on the desktop version. So something similar I can do from the other side as well, like selecting Dying36 Dragonfly as the receiver from my iOS device.
Dun 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 dun. Need
Yeah,
like a
actually,
drum. Need a drum roll. Need a drum roll.
yeah, and we are actually working on showing a state here, like whether
Yeah.
it's in encrypting state or whether it's in uploading progress. So it's sent from here, and we can see the status has been delivered, right? And sent, yeah, the same one I have received here. The timestamp is same, and if I have to download it, okay, so these two files already exist in my local, so I'll just overwrite them. So similar, like we have progress here also for the download, and once download completes, it will be decrypted. Yeah, and then it's available in our local. We can just open the files and also open the downloads folder where exactly it has been downloaded. And if you will notice here, the status is also updated as downloaded. And yeah, if it would have been failed, then there is also a third status which is failed, where we can do a retry and we would attempt to resend the notification as well. So apart from this core functionality, we have like adding contacts and like viewing the my files what we have downloaded and all. Yeah, that's pretty much it regarding the app demo.
I have to say, I really
Yeah.
do like the delivery state. I know it's fine, it sounds funny, right? Like you normally get sending and receiving stuff, but just to know that someone, especially when you're like, you might be sent to someone that might not be technically savvy or something like that, you want to know, did you receive it? You can say, yes, I can see you've received it. like you have that extra layer of metadata. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
One question that came up during that is like, yeah, you select the users, so you obviously have to onboard users, right? There's that process of like adding contacts. Is that is that coming through like the? Sorry, I'm big up to date with that sign packages. Is that coming through from an sign package, or is that something that you're onboarding the app? So you already have to have an sign, or will the sign take you through the onboarding process of getting an sign? Does that kind of make sense?
So if you are like using the app for the first time, then it would give you an option like whether if you already have an sign, you can onboard with that one, or you can generate a new sign there. So that will ask you for your email ID, and then upon verification with OTP, then you will get a new sign there.
Nice.
Yeah, and this part, like where we are adding this contacts, adding the contacts part, this is coming from a package. So we have previously it was in app itself, but we have like put this module in a package and posted it on PubDev.
Oh, nice.
So,
Awesome.
so that other apps can also utilize this. Okay, yeah. So I see some bug here also.
It's always the way. So when you're demoing, that's cool.
Okay, so yeah, so this is the demo of the app. I'll share the code of it, like the actual encrypting, uploading, and the downloading part. I'll just walk through the code as well.
Please.
So let me see. Okay, so we have VS Code here.
It might be good to make the font slightly larger, and I'll see if I
Alright.
can do that.
It's better.
Yep, that should be good now.
All right. So so send file with file bin. This is the function which gets called from the app layer. So this is exactly where the file transferring process starts. So if you look at the body of it, so we are just firstly we are finding the files and the signs that we want to like upload and share. So like all the storing the files and also figuring out which signs this file have to be shared with. And once we have this data and and once we have the signs and file data, we will be calling this upload file function. So this function actually takes care of encrypting the file and uploading it to file bin, and then sharing a notification to the receivers. So if we go to upload file, yeah, so there are some checks like for encryption service, whether it's null or not. Then we are generating an encryption key, and this encryption key will be used to encrypt the files, and it will be used to encrypt all the files that we have selected. Then we are moving to generate a unique string ID. This unique ID will be used as file bin container where all the files will go, and this key will also be used as a key property of @key, which will be shared with the receiver. I'll come to that part in a bit. So once we have these two, encryption key and a unique string ID, we would call upload files. So if you look at the body of this upload file function, this is calling two function. This is upload files and this is share files. So upload files takes care of encrypting and uploading, and share files take care of actually sending out the notifications to the receivers. So let me pull out okay. Yeah, so if you look at upload files function, so we have passed the container ID, unique string, encryption key, and the files here, and we are running a loop on the files, and here is just keeping the status as the initial status will be uploaded as false, and some other metadata of the file, like file name, what is its size and all. And then this for the UI part, we will be showing the progress or the file state, like whether it's in encrypting state or encrypting or downloading or some other states like this enum. So this is for the UI part, and this will notify all the consumers. So once we have yeah, so here we are calling an function encrypt file. Okay, so this takes care of encrypting the file, and this will return us encrypted version of the file, and this is running in an isolate. So if I go to its definition, so here this this will return us an encrypted version of the file. And the reason why we are running it in isolate is the file, while encrypting it encrypts on the client side, right? So the UI was becoming very laggy, and so it was not a very good user experience, so we moved it to isolate. And once the encryption has been completed, we would return the encrypted file. Yeah, and this encrypted file gets uploaded to the file bin container. Yeah, so encrypted file, we have here container ID and file name. Okay, so we are just this is also okay. Yeah, we are assigning some variables, the URI where it will be stored. So if you look at this is a constant file bin URL. We're passing the container and the file name, and we will be uploading this file in this particular URL that we generated here. And we will be doing it with a streamed request. We will be doing it chunk based. So here, if you look at this, we are reading file data chunk based, and we are just adding it to stream request sync. And here some calculation is happening, like what percentage has been uploaded, and then it's notifying to all the consumers. And once the stream is closed, we were just using the sync, and we are just returning the response from here. Yeah, so once we have a response, and once it's positive, like the status code is 201, then we are running some, we are marking the uploaded, which was initially false. We are marking it as true. And depending on whether file name was updated while transferring it to file bin, we would update we will update the file name also here. And this is here we are storing the sent items in a separate directory, so that we can show the previews. If you can see here, we have option to show preview in sent items. So we are just keeping a record of what we have shared it, so that we can show a preview on the history screen. So this runs in a loop for every file, and once this is done, we are returning a file status. So this is a array, and this will have the data of every file, whether it was uploaded or not, and a file name and size. So once this completes, we have file status. Then we are just regarding the file bin URL, we are just creating a zip version. We are just marking creating a new URL out of it, and storing the zip URL of the version in the file bin URL. And this URL will be shared with the receiver. So we will see how the receiver part works, like sending the notification part works. So once we have all the data, like who we want to share with, the list of @signs, the key URL, the encryption key, and the list of file status. So this encryption key was used to encrypt the data file URL. This is where the file exists in this container. Key. So this is the container ID. We will be using the same ID as the @key. So if we come down here, we are running a loop on the @signs on the @sign list. So for each @sign, we will be creating an unique @key. and this atKey will have the key. Key is the same, the file transfer which was generated uniquely here, this key. And we also have some property like TTL and who is sharing the atKey. So TTL is nothing like till what time this receiver will be able to view this data. So in this case, we have put it to for 15 days. So after 15 days, this data will go away and user will like the file is available to download for 6 days, and this entry will be shown for 15 days. And this is where we are sending out the notification. If we look at the if you look at notify, we are passing the atKey that we have generated here, and a file object which is file transfer object, which we are calculating. Yeah, we are calculating here, and we are passing every fields like the key, encryption key, the URL, and shared with @sign. Yeah, file status. So this will have the list of files that we have uploaded and the date. So this file transfer object is shared with the receiver, and this will happen for every one that we have selected. So once this part is completed, we would be just storing like if we go to the function, once this file send file with file bin container file bin happens completes, we're just all right, okay, response is mounted, and yeah, we will just updating the status, and it will update in the widget itself. All right, so this was for the sending part, like uploading and encrypting and uploading part. And if we look at the downloading part, yeah, history provider, and okay, so from history provider download files. So this is where download starts. This will get calls from the UI layer. So first just updating the UI, and like marking downloading as true, and some other fields, and notifying all the consumers, and just finding out where we will be downloading the file, the downloading path, and depending on the version, like on which platform it's running, it can vary. Yeah, so this calls download files. This is where exactly download and decrypting happens. So some checks for download path and add key. Okay, yeah. So depending on this file transfer ID, we will fetch the add key, right? We are reforming the add key, and we would add client.get. Okay, so we are passing this add key, and we would get the response, and we would convert it in file transfer object. This is the same object which was shared by the sender. So we are just getting the file transfer object here, and once we have the object, then we have all the data like the file bin URL, the encryption key, uh, how many files have been shared with. So once we have all those data, we would just call this download files function, which starts from like creating a temporary directory where we'll be storing the encrypted files, and yeah, just marking each error as false in beginning, and yeah, so just fetching out the URL here, and so zip version gives us zip versions downloads the whole container at once. So here we are replacing those, and because we want to download every file, like we want to download individual files. So for that reason, we are just replacing archive and zip, and then yeah, and then once we have the link for the container, then we are just assigning the file name, and this will give us a new URL which will download only a single file. So here some UI update part is happening, like depending on file state. So yeah, just passing the file state as a download, it will notify all the consumers and download individual files. So it internally calls download individual files, and if we look at this function. Yeah, so if you look at what's the parameter of it, we are passing the URL for the single file, the directory where we want to store the file, the file name and the ID. Okay, so here we're just a client. We are keeping an HTTP client, and we would be like downloading it with streamed response. So like for uploading, we have used streamed request, and we are just listening to the stream and writing it in the file, and it's getting written in the temporary encrypted directory that we had created at the very beginning of the function. Yeah, so once this stream completes, and also like for the download percentage, we are just calculating the percentage and updating it in the UI. And once this is done, we would mark it as complete, and we would just give out the response from here. And this is running in a loop, so it will run for every files. Like if we have number of files, then it will run for everyone, and it will store it in this directory. Yeah, and the end, we are just returning a future. Okay, and its type will be download file download response. All right. Okay, so once the files have been downloaded, the files are still in encrypted form. We have not yet decrypted them, and it's stored in a temporary directory. So once there is no error, we will just move to, like, we will list out the files that we have downloaded. We would be running a loop on them. This is updating the UI part. Like now we are decrypting the files. Upload has been completed, and this is where decryption happens. So like encryption was happening on isolate, and decryption is also happening on isolate. If you look at its definition, yeah. So this also runs an isolate and decrypt the file. And once we have the decrypted file, it would return us the decrypted file, and we would be copying it in a download path directory. This is where actually we want to download. We would copy the download decrypted file in this path, just keeping an array of the download responses. And yeah, after copying, we will be deleting the decrypted file, and also we will be decrypting the temporary directory that we had created at the start of the function. Okay, so once we have this, once this completes, yeah, so this was called from a received file directory. Yeah, and depending on the result, we can updating in the UI also, like we are marking it as downloaded. So this was the whole steps, like from encrypting to decrypting end to end. Yeah, that's all.
Awesome. Thanks, Sachin. I think we just had one more slide that was pointing people towards the repo.
Yes, please. If you want to show us the slide, Sachin.
Yeah, I'm sharing my screen. Yeah, so demo and code walkthrough.
So people can go to that URL at the bottom there and down.
Yeah, so this is this. Yeah,
I was just going to ask, one of my questions actually was, is this completely open source? And the answer is, sounds like yes.
Yeah, this is open source. You can like contribute to it by visiting this URL.
Accepting PRs now.
Yeah.
One of the I'll leave it on screen, and we can continue chatting, so everyone has a chance to go and get the link, and obviously get in touch with you at the following email address. Thank you very much, by the way. It's really awesome. Yeah, I was noting down some questions if just to start the ball rolling, and if anyone in the audience has any questions about what we just went through, please make sure you put them in the chat with the queue in front of them. And Randall's in the background doing his magic, and he'll get us the questions. So there are some questions that have come in, and we will get to them. I'm just going to ask mine quickly since I have them in front of me. What happens about large? I mean, is there a size limitation to the files that you can share at the moment? Does anyone know?
Yeah, we have tested it till around 900 MB and it worked. But I think Colin can answer this better.
Yeah, so we've tested up to 1 gigabyte, which works fine. But beyond that, you probably want to send multiple one gig files and then join them up. The backend infrastructure actually runs on Kubernetes, and Kubernetes has some strangeness about it, which is it has no swap space. So essentially, the container will run out of memory after 1 gig. It's actually a little bit more than that. You'll probably find up to 4 or 5, but we can guarantee it works just fine with up to 1 gig. But we've also had a few people that said, we want to send very large files. So in the next probably week or two, I'll just increase the amount of memory on the Kubernetes cluster, and it'll work. We didn't actually write the file bin software. It's a fantastic bit of open source software. Developers have been really cool working with us. And on a regular machine, there's no limits. It's just that we sort of push the envelope and run it on Kubernetes. So there's no limitations in our software. You can have whatever you like. It's just the back-end infrastructure essentially plays around. I mean, love feedback. I mean, if folks need to send larger files, just drop an enhancement request, and we'll take a look at it and have a conversation about that.
I mean, I was thinking actually when viewing some of that code, I was thinking to myself, something that would be nice PR. I'm just going to suggest improvements because I can't help myself.
Please.
So there are obviously when you're uploading from a mobile device, right? And it's a large file. Even downloading and it's a large file. The problem you have is that it needs to persist in the background. So that is a really big complexity to add, especially when it comes to Dart and so on. It's not just like a future. You need to suddenly add background service and isolates and all this other complexity to it. But if you start going to that mark of someone wants to be able to leave your app, go do something else, and then come back and the file's finished downloading, the only way to really reasonably do that is to do sort of those background tasks, and it does obviously add more complexity. But then if you're dealing with these large files, it's a requirement.
Absolutely, especially if it's
100 meg. I think it depends on your internet connection speed, right? So if you've got a really slow connection, well, even a small file is you need it to run in the background. So
exactly. So I mean, the good news is, Simon, we're accepting PRs. So it's a great enhancement, and we'd love it to be come from you.
If I had time. I was going to say also, and I didn't see this in the demo, and it was a question, was about sharing files. So once you've downloaded it, it's now decrypted in the local apps data directory that's private in the sandbox of the app. Is there thought to adding the share option in Flutter, so you can add the file provider and let's say an Android, and then share those files that you downloaded to external to the app? Because I get that it's obviously end to end, and you're sharing something. Maybe let's say it's a private PDF document and it's eyes only. Then that makes sense. Maybe there's a reason to say this is shareable as a metadata in the sending of a file, so the receiving party then gets allowed to share it on their device. You can imagine that being let's say I download a photo and I want to share it with a family member or something like that, and I have them on a different platform. Maybe that's then allowed, right? So I don't know. Just saying that there might be reasons to open up access to those files outside of the app. If that makes sense.
Actually, Simon, we can do it actually. Once we have downloaded it, it's available in our local. We can just copy it wherever we want, and we can share it with different platforms as well.
Oh no, exactly. I'm just saying that I don't know what the the requirement was around the security aspect of it, and if obviously we could just do that, right? You can just add the share package, it adds a file provider, and it will just work. But the point is, there might be an option then to like limit that because of the end-to-end nature of what you're trying to do here with encryption, right? You may not want to, because as soon as it leaves the app, that's it. It game's off. That data is now essentially public in that sense, right? Like you don't have any control over who gets to see that data, right? So, yeah, I'm gonna. Okay, I can't help myself. I'm gonna recommend it. I did notice that the UI was being updated on every chunk of data that's being received. It wasn't being updated on a percentage change. So you can improve the performance of your UI by just ensuring that you check the old percentage against the new percentage, and only when the percentage changes do you update the progress in the UI. Just it can be helpful sometimes when you're like sort of, you don't know how big those chunks are, right? They're operating system specific, so they're probably at 4K or who knows what. So they're kind of small units. So if you're dealing with a large file upload, you're going to be rebuilding that UI quite considerably, quite often. So it could be nice just to say when a percentage changes, right? Or because if you're only displaying, to the nearest integer of percentage, then there's no need to update that, or rebuild the UI when that changes. That was just some feedback I saw. I just thought I'd write that down, and there you go. So let's get some questions from the audience here. So I'm sure everyone's been quite busy. I see a few that came in earlier, so I'm going to go through them. If I'm going to take the questions out of order to the audience. So if you think your question hasn't been answered, we will get to it, but just in a different sequence. So I want to make sure that the app people here get and Geeky Ants get the questions that relate to them first. So let's have a quick scan through here. There's some interesting questions here, and we're going to get to all of them. So make sure you stick around. Okay. Here's one. Can you send files to your own @sign if I do not need to make another @sign? I mean, I guess. I mean, you tell me. Is that possible?
Okay, I'll take this.
It's not.
Currently, it's not. And the reason why it's not is because we wanted to get quite a lot of other aspects of the app working first before diving into the would be nice to haves. So obviously things like being able to send stuff to a group of people, being able to add a list of trusted senders where it'll automatically download if it comes from them. We wanted to get all of that in first, but this is in our feature pipeline and it will be coming very soon, because for a lot of people that use AirDrop, 90% of the time, that's what they're using it for, to transfer stuff from one of their devices to the other. So yeah, that use case is definitely on our radar. But for now, you would need 2 @signs.
Thanks. I suppose
it's a very popular request.
Oh, it is. I was going to say, like, I didn't quite follow a bit of it. I was doing several things at once there, but I do wonder if, obviously, you when you say you want to share a file, you're making an encryption key from both @signs, right? You're making it from both parties. So at some point, it's quite difficult to do that with the same one, right? So I guess that it requires a little bit of effort, and then we'll see where it goes.
It'll work just fine. We just haven't gotten to it yet. It's a great feature request. We just haven't gotten to it.
Let's see. What else do we have here? The bottom app buy is only limited to the home and received. Just wondering if you'll be adding transfer history as a whole so you can access both sent and received. I mean,
we could. The reason why we put received only there was because we just wanted to make it really easy for people to get to their received stuff. But if it's a case of putting both sent and received, it would just be adding the same tab view that we have in the menu. It wouldn't be difficult to do.
Cool. There you go. Will you add the search/add contact function in the trusted senders page? Helps with reducing extra steps of adding manually. That's a nice little. I mean, sounds like a good idea to me. If it less taps to do good functions, I won't take it on board, I guess. Like, feature enhancement.
Adding it to the list right now.
Issue ticket made. Tagged enhancement done. I mean, like there's the thing is with a lot of. I mean, I was talking to someone else the other day about sort of generally making apps, right? And a lot of the time, there's only so much as a developer you can assume your users are how they're going to use it, and assume for what reasons they're going to use it because you made it for a purpose. But then when you actually get out there, you realize no, people are doing it this way. They're clicking on that thing, or they're doing it something differently. So then you need to evolve the application. You need to take that feedback and do your A/B test and verify that your new suppositions about how someone uses the app is actually valid and move forward. And that only happens with user feedback. So this is a call to action for everyone watching. Make sure you download it, make sure you use it, and then we can improve it, right, for everyone. So that's awesome. Okay, let's see what else we have going on here. So you're not talking about encryption. I want to send data through Bluetooth or NFC. Do I need to encrypt them? I'll take this one quickly. I mean, it's always nice to add a layer of encryption. But for the most part, the hardware protocols themselves are encrypted. So when it comes to Bluetooth, that's definitely the case. When it comes to NFC, not so much. But you're not going to be sending sort of like, you shouldn't be sending vital data over an NFC connection, really. I don't know if there's any protocols on top. But there's no harm in just doing sort of, if you want to, you don't have to use @sign. Sorry, guys. But, for this kind of purpose, it's not really what @sign's there for, the @service. But, yeah, if you do want to do encryption, you can just simply do, grab the crypto library, do an AES, simple CBC block cipher across everything. There's standard encrypt, decrypt, simple enough if you want to. Yeah, why not? Go for it.
Yeah, and AirDrop is, sharing air is.
Yeah, I mean,
great apps.
I was going to say the built-in services from the operating system that do like, for example, Android and I guess AirDrop on Mac. I don't know enough about the Mac system to validate that, but for Android, you've got like Wi-Fi Direct and the other mechanisms for sending data between close devices, and they're all encrypted. So, yeah. But as I said, if you want to add a layer, it doesn't harm. It's always good. Oops, wrong button. That one. Yeah, the data would be like PDF or VCF file. Yeah, which is super text files, so it's super easy to compress and encrypt. And yeah, go for it. All right. Here's a good one. Kevin, how nice does it play with VPNs?
It doesn't care about VPNs. It's completely transparent. Won't affect anything.
I do I like the idea, and I'm throwing this out there now. I'm just throwing it your way. I'm just throwing stuff at the wall, see if it sticks. It just made me think of something I was doing recently, where you can actually take like a WebSocket connection. You can actually take a normal HTTP connection, upgrade it, which is a common sort of like HTTP tunneling, basically, right? Where you're throwing something over HTTP. I do like there might be something there with regards to like running @sign on web and connecting out that might be possible. I shut up there. I don't know. Just throwing stuff out there. Let's see. Regarding UI lagginess, isn't it enough to perform the encryption in an async function? Do you need an isolate? Well, we were showing, I think this might have been either before we got there or during the presentation. But yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, Sachin. That you said you were running that in an isolate, right?
Yeah.
So
actually, we tried it with the async function also, but we are encrypting 4 MB at once, and the same goes for decrypting as well. So yeah, UI becomes very slow, like the transition between screens, and if you are tapping on something. So yeah.
I mean, you could do it. This is just talking to our viewer, which I'm not going to try and pronounce your name because I'm terrible with names. But you probably could, if you did come up with this in your own application, you probably could do it smaller chunks, and not have the lagginess on the main UI thread. But the problem with doing that is that every chunk that you're processing has a certain amount of overhead from memory and CPU. So you would slow down your encryption, but at the sake of not having a laggy UI. So the idea of passing off to the isolate means that you get your fast encryption and non-laggy UI. So there's always trade-offs, and of course, we say non-laggy UI. At some point, if you create like 100 isolates, you're gonna lag the device out because it's doing too much at once at that point. Right, but for this is a great example of when isolate really becomes helpful in Flutter and Dart to sort of do that kind of heavy work, heavy lifting, as it were, that an app needs in the background. I didn't notice, Sachin, did you transfer? So all your encryption is happening in memory. So you don't pass like a file path across, and the background isolate reads the file path. You're actually passing the bytes of the file across to the isolate.
Yeah, actually, it's not happening in memory. It's happening in the like a device space. So we are creating an like temporary directory, and we are storing the like encrypted files there. We are writing it chunk by chunk, and once that is like encryption has been completed, it goes to the upload part, and once that is, we will be then reading it chunk by chunk, and once the whole upload part is completed, we will be deleting that file and directory which was created to store the encrypted file.
I get what you're saying. I was just talking about the data that was getting sent over to the isolate was actually either a file path or the actual data itself, but it matters not. I was just thinking about from a practicality standpoint of large files, what you don't want to do is have the entire file in memory. So you want to make sure that those chunks, your throughput is based on the chunk size and not the file size, because you kind of get to the same problem that Colin was just mentioning about the server side, when suddenly you suddenly eat up, you've got a 512 meg RAM device you're running on, and suddenly, that's your limit. That's your upper limit of device sending, essentially. So it's very easy nowadays with modern hardware to forget what limitations devices actually have when it comes to memory. It's not until you start dealing with some like large numbers that you start realizing, oh, there is a limit. It's so easy to like, I'm gonna show my age here. I remember doing stuff on the very first versions of Android, and you had a 4 megabyte heap for your entire application. You had 4 megabytes of RAM, basically. You couldn't even load an image, right? Like you literally, they added, I can't remember what version of Android, but they added like a large heap support, which meant you got 16 meg, and therefore you could load large images. And there was there's APIs in Android that let you decode a portion of a JPEG image for when your image was too big to decode fully in memory at one time. So it's very easy for a developer not to remember that there are limits, right? And to always, you don't want to pre-optimize, but you just want to make sure you're not going just all out, the first time round. But yeah, anyway, I'll shut up. Let's see. Okay. So I missed the beginning, so I don't know what the answer is. What is the atPlatform? Do you want to give us a quick, brief synopsis, Kevin?
Roger, you want to take that one?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You don't have to if you want to.
Well, I'll just make it super quick. But pretty much in one or two sentences, the atPlatform is a platform that the company built, and its primary reason for existence is to allow developers to build apps, Flutter apps, that are end-to-end encrypted without having to know all this stuff about cryptography, and without having to worry about how you're going to deal with user management and all of that other complex stuff that tends to have people stray away from trying to build end-to-end encrypted apps. In a nutshell.
Nice. There you go. What else do we have coming in here? What is the best way to encrypt the data when the app is designed to operate offline, so that SQL files cannot be opened in other devices? So I mean, like this doesn't strictly come under @time, but I wanted to give this one a throw. the best way. There's no best way, really. I mean, there is some ways. I mean, the fact of the matter is, there is normally most devices, and especially I think there's now requirement. Obviously, it depends on the platform you're running on, should I say? So when it comes, we'll talk about mobile for a second. Android and iOS. There's a secure enclave, and that allows you. There's actually APIs that you can call to get an encryption key that's unique to your app that you have access to. The user can offer a passcode/password to decrypt that certificate so that you can then use that. So it means that that's the kind of app where you have to like put in a PIN number to kind of open the app up. Like what they're doing there probably is decoding the secure enclave certificate, and then they can use that to decrypt local storage files and things like that. I mean, you can just, for example, if you really want to, you can just generate, when your app first starts, generate a key that's for that one instance session of the app, and then encrypt your data with that. From then on, that's it. But at some point, if someone has access to the app, at some point there's no more security on offline, right? So at some point, if someone has access to the device that your code is running on, game over. Like there's no security because someone can debug or browse or see everything, right, at some point. So the nice thing about the mobile space is every app is sandboxed, and the operating system is designed in such a way that it does stop that from happening. And then you can detect if you're running a device that's rooted and just choose not to operate your code. You say, am I running a root device? Yes, don't run. And you can lock that out. But from a desktop perspective, things, and I'm sure the guys at atSign have had these problems, like different operating systems and different versions, and so on have different APIs or different hardware capabilities to those secure enclaves, and that means there's a further problem in terms of accessing those keys. But for the most basic fundamental security measures, generating a the thing is, you kind of have a catch-22. You've generated a certificate. That certificate going to be there on the disk, right? You're going to have it stored somewhere. So if you're on a desktop, the user can see that file, right? Now you can encrypt that file with your own fixed private key that you ship inside your app, for example, which again, it's not desirable. So I don't know. You can. There's actually, if you're talking about SQL specifically, can it be opened on other devices? There's actually a secure SQL extension plugin which encrypts the SQL databases, and I'd suggest that your first point of call is just to go, if you're using SQLite, I'm guessing that's what you're talking about, but if that's the case, so you've got an SQLite DB file, you can just encrypt that with a key, and then the key is shipped hard-coded into your app somewhere hidden, and for the most part, no one person can just open up that file from your apps directory and access the data. Again, it's just layers of security. So I'll shut up about that. Any comments on anyone else want to add anything to that, or did I say everything?
I think, Simon, the other practice you could do is encrypt. I mean, regardless of whether you're persisting the data in, if you encrypt it client side, you can store it in any kind of database, but it's just you're storing encrypted blobs. It makes it hard to do any kind of matching or any kind of operations on the data, because you can't get to see the data. But that is another practice.
Cool. All right, let's see. What else do we have here? Okay, I think. Let's grab this one here. Would you add AirDrop-like feature between multiple operating systems, e.g., Android to Mac OS X? So that's exactly essentially what this is, right? So it's. I'm right assuming this, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because you're using the app. It's operating system agnostic, right? Like it's using the atSign system, and the encryption mechanism is the same across the board. Any feedback on that?
No, it's exactly right. I mean, you can go from Windows to Linux to Mac to Android to iOS to, soon you could do it from a command line. So it's it literally is any device to any device. But that's why we did that example for that, to prove that point, because Flutter gives that to us. That's why we love Flutter so much. And it all works. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
And good friend of the show, John, he said, have you looked at IPFS, interplanetary file system? It looks like it has similar goals, yet with some big differences. I don't know. Have you looked at
it? John, we love IPFS. It's just again, something we haven't gotten. Well, we've actually done a gateway implementation, but we want to do a native implementation. But yeah, IPFS is super cool.
Nice.
I mean, that'll be right now. We have file bin, so it'll be an option, and we'll have an example with IPFS as well.
Okay, I'm just taking a scan through. I think that was all the encryption slash @ related questions. I don't know if you guys do want to keep you longer than needed. So, you know, if you feel like you need to head off, please feel free. Otherwise, if you want to stick around. I mean, that's fine by us. I want to see if I can get a Randall. Is a Randall in the background? Does a Randall want to join us? I'm getting a thumbs up. Hey, Randall. There you go. You can come back to the screen.
Good to see you again.
So I think we have a few general questions we can get through.
Indeed.
As I say, if you feel like you need to head off, please speak up and head off. Otherwise,
are
you going to head
off? I'm actually
late
for another call, so I apologize. But,
no, that's fine. That's fine.
And
I want to say, have a happy Silicon Valley Flutter meetup later today.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, we'll talk about you.
Yeah.
See you then. Bye bye.
Yeah. Thanks for having us, Simon.
No problem. Nice to have you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Alrighty, so I've been flagging questions. I've got 13 in the queue, so let's whack them
go
through.
on the Q&A part of Humpday Q&A, and
exactly. The AMA part. The AMA part.
We're going to go back up and go top down and try and get through as many questions as we can.
I answered a couple of them in the chat already, but we'll get to those, I'm sure. So let's see.
I want to bring this one up. That is great. I don't know what Google Maps pagination is, but we could definitely take a look in a minute and see what that is. I'll keep that around. If we have time, we'll go take a look at it.
Sure.
And what is Impeller? Is it a new rendering engine just like Skier?
Ooh.
Oh, where to begin? So I did an investigation the other day around Impeller because, it was new to me as well when the announcement came out. I know that they were doing the display list side of things, and when Impeller was announced, I was like, "Ooh, what's this? I can go look at some new codes." We can definitely I am going to get back to this. So in short, yes, Impeller is an engine just like Skier. And so at the moment, what Impeller does is it backs onto Skier's framework, right? So they haven't replaced Skier entirely. They're making a new layer, and this layer means that they're not directly linking Flutter to Skier. They're linking Flutter to Impeller, and this kind of gives a breathing space so that the engine needs to render to Metal. They can do all the Metal way of doing things for iOS, and it can be really optimal for that platform. That's what I'd say. That's my sort of viewpoint on this. The end of the day is it's very difficult to create a rendering engine and have it do everything, right? Like a rendering engine is a really difficult premise, right? So they will obviously, and I mean, from my point of view, they would obviously like use the current like libttf and all the other things to do like fonts and everything else. So then Impeller is going to be the smallest possible surface area of an API to allow Flutter to render. And that literally comes back down to the Flutter Canvas API does not open up the entirety of the Skier surface API, right? So you have like draw line, you have draw points, but what you don't get is, I don't know, draw line with shadow or whatever like the special functions are there in Skier to do all the Skier things. Skier is very, very good at what it does, but it's also a huge API surface in comparison. Huge. So yes, we want to have more, but the point is, if we have more rendering APIs, they need to work across the board on all platforms, right? So at some point, what Impeller's doing is allowing us to optimize for all those platforms for the specific API surface that Flutter requires, rather than everything from Skier. If we get time, we can have a look through the source code, but that's what I'd leave that on.
Cool.
And sorry, by the way, jump in at any time, Randall, if you feel like you want to add anything.
I am. I'm jumping in anytime.
I'm
Yes.
just going to race through as many as I can right now, and keep your questions coming in. If we can answer them, we'll get to them. And
Yep. I'm still watching for them. I'm still flagging them. Don't worry.
Just make sure you put Q in front of your questions so we can find them.
I have my job. I'm doing my job.
So, Imad said, I faced so many problems on Gradle build build and key release. Any ideas how I can resolve it fast without wasting time, please? Because I'm still now HH. I don't know what HH stands for. I feel like I'm old.
Hating maybe.
Maybe does that mean you're still new or something? I
don't
anyway.
know. Don't know.
So the best thing I can say is you're talking Gradle, which you're talking about Android specific. So go read the documentation. So if you're talking about, so first of all, there is a release page on the Flutter website. In fact, I'm going to open that up now because that is definitely the go-to thing. So it's
okay.
If I'm going to share my screen here, hopefully I'll share a tab or something. So look, see if I can do this. Share.
Hopefully there'll be some screen that has our faces and a window on it.
There we go.
Yeah,
so
like that.
This is the Flutter
sort
Dev.
of.
This is the Flutter Dev website. Let's make it. Yeah. So in the documentation, there is a release page. How to release my app somewhere. Deployment. That's the one. And then under here, releasing your Android app.
Yep.
And then on this page, it goes through signing your app. And here, if you literally follow these steps, create your key store, and then you make a key.properties file in your Android folder of your project. Also make sure that this is in your Git ignore. Then you put in your password that you entered in the previous step. It'll ask you for a password when you generate your key store. And whatever the alias is, which is upload, which should be in this command. Yeah, alias upload. And then where the file is, and you can put it on your computer or you can put it relative to your project. Just do not put the key file in your repository.
Yes, never put stuff into Git that you don't want public.
Yeah, exactly. It says here, warning: keep the key properties file private. Do not check into your public source control.
Yeah.
Too many problems have been caused by this, and once it's committed, it's very hard to get out.
Yes.
And then in here, if you look at your build.gradle, you should have something like this. If you don't already, add it in there, which loads the key store properties, and then the build types of release inside the Android block. This is so Android build types release block. You just need to modify this to being this, which basically tells it to go get these things, go get the fields from that key files property. So this way, again, the idea here is that you don't check in the key.properties file, but the Gradle file is checked in. So you're not putting the password or anything else that's kept private into your build.gradle, which is your releasing, right? And that's it, really. That's as long as it goes. So this updates it to being release signing, and then you put your signing config with all these things. And when you do Flutter build, it will Flutter build app bundle or Flutter build APK. It will then use that signing key and sign it. Now, if you're trying, here's the problem. If you try and upload it to the Play Store and the Play Store complains, that's because your upload key that you've made doesn't match the one that's already in the Play Store. You have to upload with the one that's already registered in the Play Store. And you will have a problem if you lose that key file. Well, it depends, and I won't go into the detail. There is apps called App Integrity in the Android Play Store, which lets you, they will take over the key signing, which you want to do. So enable that. Once you've uploaded your first build, your app bundle, your APK, let them take over the code signing. And it means that you can never be into a problem where you lose your key, because if you lose your key, you're losing your upload key, not your signing key for your app. And then when it comes to iOS, that you regenerate your deployment keys. That's a whole process. To be honest, in Xcode, if you open up your iOS project file in Xcode and just choose automatic key signing, as long as you've got your iOS account that's inside your developer account on the Apple website, the same on your computer, you can go into Xcode's account, download profiles or something, and it will turn on automatic code signing. It will generate the profiles. It'll do everything for you, and it's really good. And trust me, it may sound like it's a lot easier than Android, but it's definitely a lot easier than what the iOS was before you had automatic. Before we had automatic, you would be pulling your hair out left, right, and center. So thank you
that
for
would
at least
be
saying that.
17 steps before you could upload something. Yes.
Yeah, it was crazy, and then you had to get everyone's UDIDs from all their devices and add them into the. Oh my god, that's no, don't even talk about it.
And you had to face east during part of it. I remember that part.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh my god, it brings back bad memories. So let's move on.
Yes.
So next
right.
question: how about Dart Frog, the new framework from server side in Dart? Is there more If there are more frameworks available, please list the.
This is the very good guys.
Yes, very good adventures. In fact, we have some very good adventures in the chat. Hello, guys. Welcome. Welcome to the chat. Thank you for joining us.
You should bring them into the chat to talk about this.
Yeah. In fact, I don't think we have
time
to dish out right now. But what I will mention is, from what I've read and from what I understand, it's very much like the Express.js kind of stuff. So a bit on top of shelf. I have not looked at it personally myself. I have not had time since yesterday or the day before, whenever it's talked about. But also Invitays, that is the company that have been doing Flutter Fire. They're also they've announced, I believe, on Mojilla's announced that they're doing something on their side as well. So
this is back end only. This is back end only, just to confirm that. Yeah.
Yeah, these are like server side Dart frameworks.
Yes.
And there's a lot of movement at the moment. There's also serverpod.dev, which is another one. I've not tried it. Let's see if I can bring that up here on the stream. Hang on.
Sure.
So the website, I think, is serverpod.dev. Yep, there you go. So this is another sort of idea of using Dart for the server side.
Is this also layered on shelf or not?
Do you know what? I don't know. Let's see what let's see what the GitHub shows us.
Yes, because it will show a pub spec that would include shelf
packages.
You would think.
Server pods. Let's go with server pod root 1. I don't know what this is. Let's just have a quick look around. Oh, Postgres, HTTP, crypto, Redis. What were you saying? Does it
shelf? Was it shelf in there?
Well, there's this shared and serialization service client and client.
Oh yeah, so
I mean they are using HTTP directly, so they could just be running direct HTTP server.
Sure.
Should we have a look? See what? Oh look, server. Oh, we're close. Oh look, all of this stuff. Let's have a quick. See if we can do something, and then we'll move on to the next question. So let's go to the root server. HTTP server. Yeah, they're not built on shelf. They're doing it themselves.
Oh wow. Okay.
So
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the like bind secure and this it does. The problem with not using shelf is that shelf has got such a wide set of packages available for it, and a wide like use base already. It's like
right.
I kind of feel like you'd be surprised not to use shelf, because it means that anyone that uses your server-side library can take advantage of what shelf provides. There's also a standard mechanism that it uses. I guess, if you're obviously if your pattern of wherever you're doing server stuff is completely foreign to shelf, it may be a problem. But I would think that you could just build on top and then give a hook for shelf. So if you've got any shelf-specific packages or features, you could layer them in.
Right. And it might be that you just want to break that. You want to have your own sort of protocol on its own, rather than the protocol that has to incorporate everything shelf incorporates.
I mean, talking from some experience, yeah. I mean, like shelf, there's like WebSocket stuff and upgrading the connections and hijacking the connection and all this kind of stuff, which you can still do with the native HTTP servers, but I feel like you've got tried and tested code, right?
You're kind of down at plus and minus instead of dealing with multiplication.
Yeah, I realize we're talking about server pod and not what the question's about. Is there actually is it Dart Frog? Is it Dart Frog? Is that what it's called? Let's see. there's a blog post about it, isn't there? Am I going to find it?
I'm sure there's.
Am I gonna find it?
There was a posting on it. I think in Medium.
Was it Medium? I found it. Dart on the server side. I got it.
Okay.
Good old Felix. Let's see if we can get this up on the screen here.
All right, let's do it.
I'll hide the question for a second to give it some space. So yeah, this is let's give it. Let's make some room on the screen here. So
if you're asking questions in the chat room and not preceding them by Q:, I'm considering it just chat. Please put Q: if it's for us.
So first of all, here's the key phrase: experimental backend is not good to use this in production. Use it, but it's experimental. So I just,
oh, of course. Well, everything's an experiment for a while.
Yeah. Oh, look, so built on top of Shelf and Mason.
Oh, it is. There we go. See?
Mason is the build system, right? I have no idea.
I thought Mason was the template generator.
Oh,
yeah,
I'm thinking
Mason's templates.
I'm thinking. Sorry, when I heard of Mason, there's a C build system called Mason. That's what I was thinking of. Sorry. Anyway, Remix Run. Oh look, and inspired by many tools include Remix Run, Next.js, and Express.js. So there's a CLI. You can activate the CLI, create a new Dart Frog app. Nice. So it's like Flutter Create. Build it for production, run a local dev. So it's just
right.
This reminds me very much of the original web dev, the Dart web dev, where you could use that to host your local server and everything.
Right. This is cool.
Yeah, I mean, so you've got your standard, request response. So
yet another thing to distract me from billable hours today. Wonderful.
So you do your request and your response, and you got your request context.
And thank you, chat room, for responding with cues. This is good.
Middleware. Yeah, no, this feels very much like what you would expect. Yeah, it's the same thing, sort of like use and everything. Yeah, this is good. I like it's tidy. And here's, I see. Okay, and you do testing as well. Nice. What's next? Check out the roadmap.
This is cool.
All right. So, all these new feature improvements.
We're going deep down the rabbit hole. We got 20 minutes left in the show.
Yeah, let's get back to some questions and keep your questions coming in, and we'll get to them.
Got it. Yeah, we got 13 in the queue.
Right.
We're looking for them.
One less. Oh, good over Roberto. Thanks for joining us again. Tooltip widget. How can I update the default text in the tooltip? Set state does not affect it. Also, how can I make a tooltip always visible even if the user taps? Don't use the tooltip widget. There you go. So
lovely.
So, sorry, I'm being facetious. The problem is the tooltip widget is built around the material design guidelines, which have these very specific use cases in mind. So there's you cannot do those things, right? I've had the same problem with several of the widgets myself. It's like I want to do this, but it doesn't do that, right? And there's you can do this thing where you go copy their widget and change it, add the features that you want, and it's in your app. It's kind of to be honest, you might be better off just going, what is the basic functionality that I need for my app for a tooltip, and just build a widget for that. So it's not that complicated to do a tooltip style thing. If you want to know where to begin, obviously you can look at this. There's the platform source code for this, but it's called overlay. You want to go look at what an overlay is.
I was just going to say, is it overlay that solves this for you? Because you're looking for being able to make a layer above without using a stack.
So there's three widgets. It's overlay, and you don't actually need an overlay yourself. There's already an overlay in every navigator. There's an overlay, so you just do overlay.of, add overlay entry, I think it's called, or add entry, and you give an overlay entry, and that has a widget builder in it, and then the widget that you return back is just going to cover the screen, right? So that's not what you want. So what you do is you normally return back a stack and use a positioned or something like that to position your widget. At this point, you've got a problem, because if the outside area can scroll or move, and you want your overlay to move with it, that becomes a problem. So I will just dive back over to my shared tab here and go to api.flutter.dev. If I could type it, you'll find that there's a leader. Yes. Leader layer. Where's the widgets? Follower layer. I know the layers. I want the
Leader
widgets.
layer class. Wow.
Now these are the layers. They're composed layers. For the life of me, I can't remember what it's called. Not layer. Leader. And the leader. Follower. Positive transform follower. That's the one. So
Wow. That's a long name.
So composite transform follower and composite transform target. These are the two widgets that basically how all of they share the same layer link object, and when they do, you can have one thing follow another thing on a different layer. So target is what you're following. So you wrap your widget tree with this with a layer link, and then you give it to the follower, and then the follower's constructor. You can say align to, and this is how the drop-down lists work. So when you have like a drop-down list underneath for like an input box, it uses this feature. Hopefully that helps.
This looks like fun again. Darn it.
Yeah.
You're going to steal away some of my billable hours today.
That's what you want to be looking at. Hopefully that helped. I mean, there is several libraries. In fact, there is another one. Who was it? Thomas Burkhart did a pop-up tooltip library, which let you have a lot more features and functionality over the rendering and what they are. I couldn't tell you what it's off the top of my head. I forget completely. So maybe you can go hunt that one down. Task for the viewer. Anyway, let's see. Do you want to read the next one?
Sure. I've been stuck with this problem. PhoneAuth gives the new UID to the user every time the OTP is successfully verified. How to check if the user exists already so that the UID is not updated? I don't know.
The PhoneAuth gives a new UID to the user every time.
I think this is Firebase Auth.
Yeah, I know. I see that, but I'm thinking to myself like, OTP is successfully verified. But the thing is,
why would you go into the sequence for the PhoneAuth if you didn't already know that it wasn't a UID you had? I think that's the question here. Why are you re-authing somebody?
Well, I think that the auth expires, right? But I mean, I'm just thinking that. I don't think there's like that. I don't think you have to re-authenticate. Once someone's logged in, you should you're logged in as that user account. I mean, the problem here is you're just using PhoneAuth, right?
Right.
Or maybe if you're using PhoneAuth for the same phone number, though, it should give the same UID.
It should.
I mean, I would honestly, I don't have a direct answer for that. When you get back, I'll give you a quick. Let me just open up the documentation here and just show you something.
Ask Google support.
Yeah. So this is the official documentation. I'll put a link in the chat here.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you have to go through and look, but when you sign in, I don't. Hang on. Let's open up a new tab and then we'll do that. When you go to one of these APIs, normally it returns back a so this is returning back a credential, right? And then you can then
which
you
is going to have a UID.
Yeah. Then there's actually I got to remember what the class name is. So this is the PhoneAuth credential, and then you do login with credential. I'm trying to remember. It's on the base class, I think. Hang on. Where is it? User platform. That's not it.
So we're getting close to the end of the show. So no more new questions at this point. We've got 12 on the list. So come back next Wednesday and ask your questions.
Yeah. Well. Thank you very much. So when you sign in, I'm not going to find it here. No, my luck. Anyway. when you sign in, you get back like an object that tells you if sign in with credential. Here we go. You get back a user credential platform, and that gives you additional user info. Tells you are there a new user. So hopefully that might help you in identifying is this user returning back or are they a new user or not. I don't see why you'd be getting a new UID though. Anyway, let's move on. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah.
Apologies, very specific question, but hopefully that helps. How can we use Flutter to develop for any embedded devices like home, restaurant, kiosk, and devices? So, like, you mean like this little device here that I have in my hands that runs Flutter?
Yep.
You can definitely do this, and there's a platform called the Flutter Embedder, and in fact, one of the I would suggest the go-to things is to go look at Flutter Pi. So Raspberry Pi is quite a well-known development platform and learning platform. I put a link in the chat, and I'll just bring it up on screen briefly. So this is the Flutter Pi repo, and as it says here, there's supported platforms. You can run it on 2, 3, or 4, even the 512 models or Pi 02, and this allows you to run your Flutter code on the Raspberry Pi. It was based from the original. So Shinmei, this one here, Shimiga. He's a developer on the Flutter engine team, and 4 years ago. In fact, updated 6 days ago, but that's how long ago this was. It was running Flutter Pi from scratch. And basically what this does is, take a quick brief here. If you're kind of interested, this Pi display, what he's doing here is this connects the EGL or the OpenGL interface from the Flutter embedder to the one for the platform. So somewhere down here, there, graphics get display, VC display update, all this kind of good stuff. This all is how he links so basically he's using the driver functions to interact or link up OpenGL from the native platform display chip to Flutter. So that's already built for you in Flutter Pi. But if you're trying to do your own embedded device, you need to do that. And there's a standard API. So I just want to briefly touch on this because a lot of people ask about embedded. And so if you go to GitHub, github.com, Flutter engine, make sure that's in the chat. You'll find that it's called Flutter embedder. And the one time I want to find it.
I'd also say look into Fuchsia, because Fuchsia is basically a platform that will run Flutter code. On various platforms.
Yeah, there's actually I'm looking at the source code here. This is actually it. This shows you here the platforms it works on: software rendered, GL, Metal, Vulkan, and this is the API. This is the embedder API. So this is what Flutter. Each platform must implement to use Flutter. But there is actually a guide, Flutter engine, and I won't probably find it now. But there's a GitHub wiki page. Flutter engine. Yep, here we go. Found it. Let me pop this in the chat, and I'll bring this up on screen. And this is it here: custom Flutter embedded engines. And this talks about how you download the embedder framework, and then what you need to do. Here's the C file and how you link it up. So hopefully that's the starting point, and that should get you on your way if you're interested in doing this.
Cool.
Obviously not for everyone, but you can definitely do it for embedded kiosk devices and everything.
Yeah.
Right. Any real examples of Flutter web apps? Off the top of my head, I can't think of any, but I've not been involved in many that I like that. So I'm sure
my response in the chat room was that basically if you go to the gallery, many of those are also running on Flutter web directly. So if you go to the Flutter gallery.
There is actually a page. I forget what the page is now.
Yeah.
Is it Oh, do I do this? Flutter gallery. There's a Flutter gallery repository. I think gallery.flutter.dev. So gallery.flutter.dev. This website here. This is built in Flutter and shows. This is all like Flutter web app, and shows you a bunch of examples of how you do all this kind of fun stuff and everything. So go take a look. And this is just in the GitHub repo, github.com/flutter/gallery, I think it is. It might be /examples or samples, I forget, but yeah, no, you can definitely get to all those examples and see them all. They're available. Let's see. What is the group's recommended choice for Flutter AMA for SQLite? I don't have any, I'm afraid. Do you have any?
No, I don't know any ORMs for SQLite at this point for Flutter.
I mean, there probably is, not knowing what pub's like. There is probably, if you, I'm just type SQLite ORM. Let's see what comes up. SQF entity gen. There you go. That sounds like SQLite. I don't know. I'm sure there's plenty of different packages out there. This one was updated 8 days ago, so maybe it's a good one. So
right.
Yeah. Brick Bible SQL, Brick SQL. There's lots of SQL entity, SQL Bright. There's a bunch of I couldn't say one. I've not used one firsthand, so sorry. Oh, we don't like questions like that. Okay, does having custom throw impact the performance? I missed this. This I think was from the this was probably from the thing earlier. So the presentation earlier. Sorry. No, there you go. Throw is a throw. It doesn't matter if it's throwing a custom object or an exception or an object or anything. You're always throwing just an object. So there should be no performance difference from one to the other. Any remarks on that? Randall?
No cue. Yep. No influence. No experience.
How to run a background job such as at 12 UTC. There's a package for that. So there is what's it called? Background worker, and it's not called background worker. Oh my goodness. This is gonna kick me because it's it's in the Flutter community packages, and for the life of me, and the name just escaped me. So let's see if I can find it in the repository here quickly.
Right.
And
wouldn't this is conditional based on the fact that your app still needs to be running, and apps have a tendency of getting killed by the operating system.
No.
This is independent of that?
This is the independent one, yeah. So basically, what Work Manager does, and there's also, just to be clear, the Plus plugins has Android Alarm Manager. It's called now. That's one, Android Alarm Manager Plus, and this only works on Android, obviously, hence its name, and it owns as Android and support platform. But this allows you to say schedule at this, either periodically or at a specific time, to go run something. But then that doesn't work on iOS, right? So this one is the specific implementation, and they are one shot at a particular time of day. Go run this kind of thing. That's what you can do with that. On the other hand, there is also Work Manager. Work Manager is a bit more advanced. Work Manager lets you say, when the network is available, or other features. So there's a particular setup for iOS and Android. Well, once you've gone through it, you're done, and then you can say, execute this task. If I can find it in here. Initial delay, simple task, constraints. There must be a network connected. You must be charging. You can do some very interesting things where basically the things must be available for you to be able to do. So let's say you did like a network sync once a night, or in the background once a week, or something else like that. Then yeah, the example of saying the network must be available is a good option for that. But yeah, you can check basically, and the operating systems allow you to do that kind of thing. You will get, just to carry this forward a little bit, you'll get your notification within 15 minutes. Normally, they will bulk up all. And so let's say I want my callback, let's say my notification for a background job to happen at 7 minutes past midnight. Well, the likelihood is you'll be called at midnight or 50 minutes past midnight, not at 7 minutes past midnight. So they do this because they batch up everything that wants to happen in a quarter of an hour to a quarter of an hour. And sometimes on low power states, it will be like an hour or longer. They don't, there's no, they have particular guarantees, and it depends on the platform. But the point here is to not just consume the user's battery life by, like, you say, I want to be called every 1 minute, you're not going to get that callback every 1 minute necessarily, right? Like, the operating system is going to optimize that out. So just letting you know that, if you're doing that kind of thing, that's a foreground service, right? That's something that you need to be telling the user, I'm constantly doing this thing, I'm constantly running. Because like doing those things is the way that you kill someone's battery life. And it's just not good to do that anyway, right? So background jobs frowned upon anyway. Background jobs for no good reason, even worse, right?
We got 5 minutes and 7 things queued up. So let's crank it out.
Is there any package for protobuffer in Flutter? Yes, protobuf.
That was simple.
So yeah, there's if I remember rightly, it's called protobuf. Yep, there it is. And this is the official Google one. And this and there's protobuf gen, I think, or like Dart generate code guide, most probably. There you go. You run proto C and your output. I've done this before, and it takes your proto files and puts Dart files in the gen folder. And then you can use those generate files that you import protobuf, which is required for those generate files. And that's it. You just use those generate files to communicate. It generates like a service, if I remember rightly. So over here, you have like a service class or something, RPC, whatever. I'm not going to go digging through it right now. But the point is, it generates all the connection code and everything for you. So yes, you can do that, and you don't have to use the server client code if you haven't got any protobuf. You just use the serialization into bytes, and then you can send those bytes wherever you want.
Yep.
All right. Next question.
Next.
Does the HTTP package include any retries if it fails to retrieve the page? No. As far as I know, it does not and has not. And there is separate packages for this, and I forget what they are. Hang on, I'm gonna.
I think Dio wraps it in a way that you can say retry.
Yeah, I think there's. I seem to remember there's like a network retry package. That's it, retry.
Oh yes, very good.
This is it. So what this
you got it in one. Yes.
So yeah, there you go. So basically, you make your request, and then if it throws a particular exception, it will retry it, and then you can have 8 attempts, and it does the exponential backoff logic for you and all that kind of stuff.
Cool.
Retry. There is another one. For the life of me, I can't remember what it is. There's another one.
Close enough. Next question.
Yeah.
Close enough.
Yeah. Moving on.
We answered, asked and answered.
What else do we have here?
Oh, TDD. How long do we have now?
Can we get some suggestions reference on clean architecture TDD? I would go directly to not necessarily TDD, but clean architecture in general. I think a good one is to do domain-driven design, or DDD, or whatever it's called, and
RESA coders things. RESA coders DDD is incredible. I've used it as an architecture in multiple projects now, and really enjoyed it.
The model that I built my apps in is called apparently it's called the repository model, or the repository architecture, or something like that. But it's essentially DDD, but not to the nth degree. Like, I don't create use cases and things and stuff like that. But as long as the thing I say about all these design patterns and architectures and whatever, keep it consistent, keep it the same, and you're good. Like, just don't start like throwing every different thing under the sun in all these different areas, because you're just going to get scrambled code, right?
And don't be religious about it. That's the thing too. Yeah. It's like it's not a magic shaking stick that we need to apply to everything. It's basically like, here's a sort of a guideline if you're ready for it. Yeah.
All right. Let's see what else we can get to. How to find the download folder in Flutter Web. You can't read from the file system in any website. Full stop. They're completely sandboxed away from the file system completely. So don't get to the download folder. What you need to do is if you're trying to download something for your site to use, then you're downloading it in memory, and there's ways of doing that. What you're asking really is a web problem, not a Flutter web specific problem. Okay, so go look up how you do it with JavaScript, right? So if you go find out how you download a file in JavaScript and download it to the browser, which you can do, then what you can do is go to api.dart.dev. Over here on the left, you'll see that you've got .js and .html, and you can use all the same classes that JavaScript has, and you can rewrite whatever that JavaScript code is or that little example in Dart, and you'll have it. There you go. That'll work. Just what you need.
Yep.
Obviously not answering the direct question we want, but I kind of gather that you want to access something from the download folder, and the answer is you can't do that, but you can access the downloaded data if you do it. So you can always just make a HTTP request, which uses XRPC, whatever it is, the XML and
XHTML, XHTTP.
The background browser request, what are they called?
Yeah, cross. It was XML.
XHR.
XHR. Right, there we go.
Moving on. Moving on.
Yes, move on.
What is the difference between double infinity and double max finite?
What is double max finite? Have I seen it? I don't remember.
To be honest, they're both in the case that they use for width and height value, they're both the same.
Yeah,
that's the answer to that one. So
they're just both huge.
The point is, every layout is constrained to the parent in its constraints bounds, right? So the idea of using double infinity is to say I want to be as big as I can be, but then it gets constrained by the parent down to the actual size that the parent gives. Now, the max finite is, again, a huge number. It's not infinite, right? But it's finite, but it's just a really big number. So you could still use exactly the same thing and put 100,000.
Right.
If your screen is bigger than 100,000, it's not going to reach the edge of the constraint. But you know what? Right. Most screens aren't, so it would work. So that's the reason for using double infinity, is just to say I want to be as big as I can be. And to be honest, you should probably work your layouts where you're not doing this, like having tunnel to layout process. You're not explicitly saying it. But
you're saying this is a bit of a code smell when you see this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Whenever I see double infinity, I'm like, okay, you're basically escaping the normal layout thing and saying I want to be as big, and you're kind of rather than it imposing the bounds down, it's the child asking for a certain size.
Right.
There are reasons to do it, but it's few and far between. Normally, like you want to be using things like a column with stretch as its cross-axis alignment to say everything should meet the boundary, not push out and then they all meet the boundary or something like that. I don't know. It depends.
Right.
But,
2 more. Let's go.
So this was back to where we were. So I think we could.
We got 2 more.
Yeah, this is what we're talking about. So this is the impeller question and.
The impeller question.
Okay. Impeller, and
I guess we did that already. Okay.
Yeah, and I think that the Google Maps pagination we did take.
Are we done?
Here, but I think that's it. I think we're on
that's
2 hour
awesome.
mark. I think
right exactly at the 2 hour mark. Yes, top of the hour again.
Hey Matt, thanks for joining us. Hey everyone. Yeah, thanks for joining us, everyone. Looks like there's quite a few suggestions on some of the questions in the chat. So please, if you see your question or see someone answering your question, please, grab it and go with it. Let's see. So, look, I see some people like live code. Yes. So this time, this today, not so much. We're not sure. So I want to leave on this note, actually. So this is a great reminder to everyone. There is an event next week, and that is the Flutter Global Summit by Geekly. That brings up the screen here. This is it here. And it's next first and second, which happens to be next Wednesday and Thursday. So, so we're not sure how things are going to happen in the show. we will definitely put it up on YouTube, and so make sure you subscribe and you'll get a notification if we are going to do it. If we will definitely again follow us on Twitter at FlutterComm, COMM, and we will also be announcing things from the Flutter Global Summit, as well as if we do get to do a Hump Day, we will make sure that it's announced there. But yeah, get your tickets. So there is as far as I'm aware, and I may be wrong, so go check the website. The junior track is completely free, so you can go look at that, and then the senior track is a paid for affair. So if you go look at the agenda and everything, you'll see the full. Let me get it on the screen here. The full agenda of all the speakers and all what's happening during the junior track here and what's going to be spoken about. Come join us, and there's also
cool.
the senior track, which is a bunch of stuff happening as well. So yeah, please join us, and hopefully we'll be back for next week. Thanks very much.
So if we're not here next Wednesday, we're here 2 Wednesdays from now. So
yes, see
we
you
continue.
then.
We continue.
Ciao.
Thanks, everybody.